I'd like to welcome back all my followers, and I wanted to show you a little bit more about what I talked about the other day, about necessity is really the mother of invention. So when my sisters sort of told me that I needed to get out of my mom's house because it was up for sale, I came up with the idea that I should build myself a homemade camper. Well, this is the finished product. And as you can see, I did paint it with wildlife. I did forget mentioning that I had that whale up there. But the grizzly bears are there, and there's another bear on my trailer getting a fish out of the river, and some other animals. Now, at this point in the picture, I'm parked in front of my friend Alana's house, and I'm getting ready, packing up all my stuff, making sure everything is good, secure, and ready to go. So from there, this day is April 15th, 2012. So it's just probably 20 minutes or so before I head down to the ferry, where I change, I go and, begin the next chapter in my life. So I just wanted to share a few things of when necessity strikes. You need to have a creative mindset. You have to have a vision in your head. Sometimes you jot it down on paper, sometimes not. And it's all about action steps. Taking action steps and getting to where you want to be. So I'm going to now fast forward to this fall, 2021. And necessity struck me again, and I needed to build the addition on the fifth wheel so I could stay warm for the winter. So here you can see I've started the construction. I'm basically using all reclaimed wood. Everything is basically, whatever I could find at the dump, in Benny's yard, in Benny's shed. I tried to use as much as possible, reusing stuff that was still viable. Here you can see that I used 4x4 treated posts, and I used them for the joists, I used them for the studding in the walls, and also in the floor. I did a part of the floor with those blue chip pallets just as a base, and I've added already one window in here, and of course that cedar door that you see at the far end, that's out of the back of my camper, which has been scrapped. All right. So now picture number 2 here is the wood stove is kind of in place, and looks like I got the sheathing on the roof and going along. So the story here is that stove was sitting on Benny's porch, and I needed some way to get that stove from his porch into my addition, which is I'm quite a distance away from Benny's place. Anyway, so I came up with the idea that I should make myself a small sled that I could pull behind my quad. Anyway, so I got the sled made, I went out to Benny's house, and now I needed to move that stove, which is really, really heavy and normally takes 2 hefty guys to move. But I figured out if I used a big metal bar, I could move it from the porch, and I got it on the sled. And then I dragged that sled that I made behind my quad all the way out to the backside of the addition. Now, of course, the next challenge was how to get that heavy stove by myself into the addition. So first I put like another sheet of plywood from the sled up against the edge of the framing, and I tried with the bar, inching it over. That did not work at all. Then suddenly inspiration struck me, and I thought, I could just roll the stove into the addition, and that's exactly what I did. So I just kind of tipped it over, and with its weight, I was able to flip it over, and then finally it went through between the studs, and I got it into the addition. And then later, when I purchased the supplies that I needed to finish off the whole addition, and thanks to my friend Suzanne from Germany, who lent me the money to do it. Anyway, so now I got the sheetrock in place, I moved the stove over, and I start figuring out where the chimney has to go. As you can see, I'm just using black pipe at the moment, and because I had to make the hole in the roof, and it had to be 2 inches of space all the way around the chimney and whatever. So I got that done. I also put in a damper into the pipe, and then we're coming to the next picture. Okay, so now here you can see I've got the roof on, or I got half the shingles up. So what I did here is I tacked on 30-pound felt paper on the roof, and I got the barge board down at the bottom of the roof there, tacked on, nailed on there. I've got the drip cap in place, and I started shingling. Now, I work construction. You might notice that I have some skills here. So I made sure there was a 1-inch overhang of shingles on the bottom and up along the sides. Okay, so now I've got quite a few rows of asphalt shingles tacked on, and I just sort of went up the ladder that you see at the far end there, and brought up 3 or 4 shingles at a time and tacked them on. So now what I've done is I've gone I think about 2 rows past the chimney, and then I used the ladder to get up onto the top of the 5th wheel, and then I hung over from the top of the 5th wheel, and I tacked on the rest of the felt paper and the rest of the shingles. So now you can see it looks like I got a portion of the floor is in place. I've got the ramp up to where I put in 2 barn doors, coming in the next picture. Okay, so here is a look from the inside. The floor is all in place, all the sheathing is on, the second window is in, the barn doors are there, excuse me, and it's a relatively large space. Now, it's only 6.5 feet wide, but it's 24 feet long. And it's quite a huge space. So my first thought when I built this extension was I'd have the wood stove in there, I'd have my firewood, and then that further section where the barn doors are is I could bring a quad inside, a snowmobile inside, and be nice and toasty warm over the winter months to work on them and repair them. But as things came to be, it has a whole lot of different stuff in it now, and there's only a small little space that I can walk from the front to the back. But let's see in the next picture here. Okay, so this is basically the finished product, or close to the finished product. So what I've managed to do here is the only thing I couldn't get was the flashing and the storm collar that goes around the chimney. So that was back order, still is back order. With COVID, it's still hard to get some things, especially like electrical, Some plumbing stuff is very hard to get, and flashings and those kind of things. Here in this picture, you can see that I've got the outside. So I used OSB for the roof and for the walls and everything. And so I put this home wrap around the outside. And it's basically a roll of a plastic breathable membrane. And what you do is you just tack it on your plywood or your OSB or whatever you tend to use for your sheathing of the studded walls. And it's got a kind of like insulation in it, a little bit. I noticed it's the first time I ever used it, but I needed something on the outside to keep the wood from getting wet and damaged over the winter. Because I got to wait till the spring till I get some funds, and then my plan is to get some moss green hardy board and just tack it on, and just like laps, lap all the way to the top, finish it off really nice, and then I'll sand down that cedar door and finish it off like I did to the windows in the front there. And then if you can see the fifth wheel where the ladders are leaning, you see some OSB along the bottom. That's finished off with the home wrap as well, all the way around. In any gap, I stuck some 1.5 inch foam insulation, the blue stuff. And the whole interior and the whole interior of what's underneath the fifth wheel, I put R12, that's 2.5 inches of, 3.5 inches of insulation. And and then over that I've tacked on the 6 mil vapor barrier. And then all the interior is also done with the OSB panels. And then I've got the chimney, I've got my water storage in there, I've also got my little so I've got a pail right beside that little door in the inside. And what happens is when it snows, the chimney melts the snow on that corner of the roof that's all along the fifth wheel. The water drips down into a small like gutter, and then the gutter empties into a funnel, down a pipe, and into a pail. And this is where I get my water from. So of course in the winter I can't have any water in the fifth wheel, just in case the temperature goes like really low and everything would freeze. So now I've got water in pails, and then I've got the blue jugs that normally people use for camping with a little valve on it. So this I have sitting on my counter. So anyways, I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video. So thanks for watching, and please go ahead and share this with friends and family, and come back and watch some more of what I end up doing. This is right now, and I've had lots of stories, more stories of my time when I was up at Chaunigan Lake Lodge. So I'm thinking the next video I wanted to do was from a story from my book Cabin Fever, and wilderness surgery. Yeah, that will be a really interesting story to tell. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed this episode.